Welcome to Still with Purpose. This is Amanda and Christy.
Our goal is to dig deep and discuss real, raw subjects in pursuit of greater self-awareness, positive transformation, and healing, and to link arms and journey with you as we discover purpose and passion in life together.
Before we jump in, we'd like to ask if Still with Purpose has ever helped you feel seen, encouraged you to heal, helped you to breathe a little deeper, think differently, or reminded you that you're not alone. Please take a moment to follow the show, leave a review, and share this episode with someone you believe would get great value from it.
That simple act helps this message reach more humans, and we are so grateful for every single one of you walking this journey with us. We're so glad you're here. Let's get into today's conversation. Today's question is, what if the very thing you've been trying to fix about yourself is actually the evidence that you loved deeply? Mada, what's our quote?
The people who have loved the deepest are rarely the least broken. This will be a good one, personally. For years, I believe the goal of life for me was to become whole, and that meant no wounds, no emptiness, no broken places, which is impossible, right? Now I know it's just to be completely grounded in my wholeness with God. And whatever people choose into that are people that desire that too. In fact, this was so important to me that my word in 2025 was the word whole. And I really wanted to step into that completely instead of going into all the qualities that actually don't serve me at all. The lie I found about wholeness is healing does not equal no more pain. Wholeness doesn't equal no scars. Strong people doesn't equal unbreakable. Maybe the goal isn't to become unbreakable. Maybe wholeness isn't the absence of brokenness. Maybe it's the courage to live with it.
All of this makes perfect sense to me because I think the same way without even knowing it. You know, I strive for perfection, and we've talked a lot about that, how perfectionism isn't even attainable, and Jesus is the only perfect example that's ever lived. And so now I feel like getting to the point of brokenness and then rebuilding as we're walking closely with the Lord, that's when you build strength. But you got to hit that brokenness first.
We've talked about this a lot. I think we both believe that brokenness and suffering are our closest places that we've been to God.
That's right.
Because when things are going well, we actually really don't need them that much, unfortunately.
We don't think we do.
We don't think we do. We think we
do.
got this, and I'll do this on my own for a bit. And he's just hanging out, waiting for us to be like, oh, my bad.
Right.
I made another choice that did not get me where I want to go.
Because inevitably that's going to happen if we try to take the reins ourselves or we take credit for whatever's going on, because it's God in control, not us.
But there's also that piece of he didn't make us robots.
Right.
I think he does really trust us to make quality choices for everyday things, right? He doesn't need to answer what Jell-O we're going to eat today or what shoes we're going to wear.
Yeah.
So don't get too analytical on this conversation. It's still a process of really realizing that for me, I don't even want to do anything without him. And it's taken me 53 years to get there because my ego was so involved. The only way to avoid brokenness, in my opinion, is to avoid love. What do you think of that quote?
I think with every good, there's usually a bad. It's just part of the deal, right? With every love, you're going to have some sadness, or with every happiness, you're going to have sadness.
If you think of every time or every situation that you've been broken in, was there a loss of love involved? Even if it was love for yourself?
Oh, I'm sure. Some kind of loss.
So it's not correct to think that you aren't going to have brokenness, because if you're really truly trying to love the world and people in the world with God's love, you will be broken. He's so broken about how we're doing down here. I think it grieves his heart.
It grieves him, right? He grieves watching us.
To watch what humans are doing in their own desires and decision making and all this stuff. Because that's not really who he made us to be, but he also didn't make us robots. So, okay, well, she chose that. I'll make good out of it.
We were talking about this last night at my Bible study, actually, asking the question, why did God create man? What was the purpose? Because we're so fallen and wicked. Through discussion, we all landed on he created man to have humans that love him, but we all have that choice. And so he knew some will and some won't. And
Yeah.
ultimately, those of us who live eternally with him in heaven are the ones that chose to love him. But we all, like you said, we're not robots and we have that choice.
Yeah. And he's not that kind of God. I'm going to make like the kings you read about. They all will bow down to me and they will put these huge golden gods up. And it just
Hmm.
was insane to read how the kings expected people to serve them and bow down to them. And God's never actually said that. Honestly, if Jesus was standing in front of me, I would be on the ground. Because it would be so humbling that he was in my presence,
It's a
not from a sense of he makes me bow down to him.
And it's amazing how it comes from a place of humbleness, of brokenness. And it's a simple decision, yet one of the hardest decisions for us because we're such human, fleshly beings. It's so hard for
Yeah.
us to make that simple choice to just bow down and love and worship and give up our egos. That goes back to the quote because the people who love God the deepest are broken.
That's so true. I'm so in love with him when I'm utterly devastated and broken.
Yep.
And he's so there right with me in the pain. He's in the pit and he's going to let you crawl up his back onto his shoulders and push you up out of the pit if you want to, or if you want to stay in the pit. He's still in the pit. He's ready when you are. But you're right. The brokenness is the complete love.
Mm-hmm.
So loving people means vulnerability, basically, is what we've come to conclusion on. And vulnerability means risk. And risk means sometimes being hurt. If you've been broken by love, it doesn't mean you've failed. It means you showed up. And I can honestly say that as a twice divorced woman, I absolutely loved both of those men with all my heart and also have a lot of brokenness around those situations. But ultimately, I can still land in the aspect of God has me and he has a plan for me. I'm not broken in the sense of I'm not going to move forward for the rest of my life because I'm a failure at love and I should never love again. That's just never where I've landed because honestly, I spend so much time with him that his love comes through me like I can't not love. And thank God I've gotten to that place because I wasn't always there. And I'm so thankful I'm not in that place anymore.
It's really easy to be filled with resentment and anger that it's hard to love.
There's so much out in the world to just consume. If you want to be angry and hurt, there's just so much content. So I know in the past, when I was in the turmoil and the pit of my brokenness, I did call it being used. I was used, was kind of what I landed on. And that didn't serve me, obviously, but I had plenty of facts of why and how I was used. So instead of saying I was being used and being cynical, I really had to drop down more into I chose out because it was wise, because I needed to self-protect myself emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And when you get to that point, I really don't think God's like, hey, I think you should stick this out. I don't think he is favoring that scenario personally. And that's when I had to make a decision, basically, and not be broken for the rest of my life by another human.
It's interesting how you went from saying you were used to then saying you chose out to self-protect. On the one hand, you being used, that's giving power to somebody else. Somebody else was doing that to you.
Yeah.
But you choosing out to self-protect, that's you being powerful, being an advocate for yourself.
Yeah, it wasn't until I realized how much I was abandoning myself by staying. And that is complete devastation to your self-confidence and self-worth, is abandoning yourself. It's something to think about because we do it a lot, actually. We try and keep our word to other people, but we rarely keep our word to ourselves, even around simple stuff. I'm going to drink more water every day. Why didn't you keep your word on that? So keeping your word is huge. There's a difference between loving with an open heart and abandoning yourself. And that's what I really had to drop into. There's a difference between loving people with an open heart and being treated well, or abandon yourself and being in horrific circumstances, in unsafe circumstances. So there's a huge difference. I'm still choosing love for myself at some point, or I'm able or capable of loving with an open heart because it's being cherished and protected. Huge difference. And that distinction is super powerful. So what do you do when love turns into a weapon, though. Or I should say, when your tongue becomes a weapon. When we are tired, hurt, or exhausted in relationship, respect blurs, anger grows, words become weapons. Is that your experience?
I think when we feel hurt, we want to make sure the other person that's making us hurt feels the same.
Yeah. Sounds gross to say that out loud.
It does. It'd be really great if it were easier just to walk away. And, we've talked a lot about the let them theory. If we could just let them do their thing and not be affected by it as much, but it's hard, especially if it's someone who you're close to.
Someone you don't want to lose respect with. And that's hard to just overlook. Most relationships aren't destroyed by betrayal. They're destroyed by 1,000 small daggers from the tongue. That's so true.
Yeah. And it's crazy how it's easier to say something hurtful than it is to say something touching.
Isn't that strange?
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to be passive aggressive and biting and sarcastic than it is to just be like, I completely adore you, but also, are you being someone that deserves adoration? That's something to think about.
But it also goes back to that brokenness, because I think when we're broken and we're humble, it's easier to not be hurtful.
That's true. When I'm in the pit, it's pretty hard to think of anything else except myself, right? It's very self-absorbed. But when you start turning toward God in your brokenness and He fills you with His love, it's so much easier to be like, oh, there is actually other things going on in the world. Oh, you're struggling with something? Let's talk about it. How can I support you? Instead of being completely self-absorbed.
And I don't think that it's as easy to be the reason that somebody else feels the same negative feelings, right? Like once you've been there, you don't want to be the catalyst for somebody else staying in the pit.
What's that visual they say? You can stand on a chair. It's pretty hard to pull someone up to your chair, but it's really easy to pull you off the chair. Why do you think we lash out? I have a thought process on this, that we can only love others to the depth that we have received love. And if we're lashing out at people, we actually really don't have a lot of love internally for ourselves. I've met some pretty phenomenal humans that seem very loving, and then I find out they actually loathe and self-hate hardcore. And they are people that lash out quite regularly in some format. It's pretty interesting to watch.
Well, that makes sense because, we've also talked about before, what's in your heart eventually comes out. It's just another form of that.
And you can't hide. What comes out of your mouth is almost impossible to hide, in the sense of, I don't think everyone can see it. They can feel it, but they don't know why it's happening. But again, a wide awake person, we're like, oh man, that person really probably doesn't like themselves that much. And I remember teaching my boys that at a very young age, because they had the little bullies that come along in elementary school. And I taught my boys, this is awful. I don't know if it's awful, but I taught my boy one time to respond, oh, your mom must not love you very much. And he did say it to a kid one time. And the kid's like, you're right. She actually left me when I was 3, or, something pretty brutal back. And my boy's like, yeah, well, I would love to be your friend, but the way you talk to me is horrific. And I'm not going to actually hang with you if you do that again. It was like this huge counseling session between like 7-year-olds. And he came back and told me that story. And I'm like, dang. I didn't think that comment was going to go that way, but
hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, it's like, oh man. And I would say if you have kids that are lashing out, there is something else going on. It's not that he just wants to be a jerk kid. There is a root that needs to be dug up and figured out. He does not feel seen or heard in some way. But basically, this quote pretty much repeats what we've just said, is a critical tongue is often just a wounded heart speaking. So to come full circle on this conversation, broken and poured out, that means to me like I'm broken before God and poured out. And it's not weakness, it's humility. And it ends up being the biggest strength that we'll have in our future.
Yes. And we've said it before, those are the types of people you want to work with. Those are the types of people you want to be in relationships with, friendships, romantic, the brokenness, the humility. I still have something to learn. I still need to grow. Those are the types of people that come across strong.
The real deal. That's who the real deal is to me. me. And that's what I want to be around. The most beautiful version of us is not the one that never breaks. It's the one that keeps loving anyway. If the only way to avoid brokenness is to avoid love, then I would rather be broken 1,000 times than live a life that never loved at all. I love that quote. And just to close this up, the enemy doesn't need to destroy relationships. He just needs us to keep speaking when we should be silent.
That will destroy.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's very clear how brutal our tongues are. I'm going to repeat that because it's so brutal. Okay, this is our mic drop close, guys. The enemy doesn't need to destroy relationships. He just needs us to keep speaking when we should be silent. Every relationship that is no longer a relationship in my life definitely had spoken words that probably shouldn't have been spoken.
And I need to tell myself, say less, pray more.
Bite that tongue, girl.
Yep. Great discussion. Here are some reflection questions to think about throughout the week as you're pondering this conversation. When did my words hurt instead of help? How has brokenness shaped my ability to love? And where am I letting pride block love?
Have a good week journaling about that, and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We know your time is valuable, and we're truly grateful you spent part of it with us. We hope this conversation stays with you and helps you move through the week with more clarity, peace, and purpose.
Be sure to visit us at stillwithpurpose.com. And there you can read our bios, sign up for email encouragement and updates on exciting announcements, and also join our private Facebook community.
And if Still With Purpose has encouraged you in any way, please remember to follow, leave a quick review, and share with a friend. It helps more people find these conversations. Have a phenomenal week, and we'll see you next time.